The state of California is experiencing record-setting fires. These fires have rapidly spread over 1 million acres. No single fire agency possesses enough resources to fight the fires, making mutual aid an indispensable system.
The one out-of-county fire that I did go on this year as a strike team, we started off in San Luis County. There's an immediate need type 6 strike team, which is a smaller profile brush or wildland type engine. So it was immediate need, right to the line, work all night into the next day. After a few days of that fire kind of winding down, we were redeployed to a new start out on the Sequoia National Forest, and we spent the remainder of our strike team there for roughly 2 weeks.
Mutual aid deployments, like the ones fire engineer Ryan Ortiz mentioned, take the dedication of 20 personnel for each strike team, which will spend 14 to 21 days on wildfire incidents. But what exactly is mutual aid and how does it work? Mutual aid is an agreement between fire departments to assist each other across jurisdictional boundaries because emergency responses can exceed local resources and don't adhere to lines on a map.
Mutual aid is a by request system that goes through different areas to get to us normally. If it's requested from a Northern California fire, for instance, it would go through what we call North Ops, and then it would come to our operational area, and they would dispatch us. Auto aid is the aid that we provide to all the surrounding fire departments at a moment's notice. It just happens on dispatch. There's no request from the agencies. It's already a preset contract. We go, we respond, and the same for them, for Santa Barbara County Fire, Montecito Fire, Carpinteria Fire, they all respond to us on auto aid agreements.
Mutual aid is a very elaborate, well-planned out system. It was born in California and perfected over time. Our mutual aid is the envy of the world.
It's reciprocal, which means we give and we get. We have certain resources at any given day that we can give to any type of incident. And that's not just wildland fires. It could be structure fires, it could be earthquakes, it could be floods. We have those resources that we can deploy at any time. And then conversely, when we have an incident here, all of the fire departments all over the state have resources that they'd be willing to bring us.
Mutual aid is coordinated based on the needs of the incidents and the needs of the state. There are a couple of coordination systems in California.
One is called North Ops, which is a multi-agency group of CAL FIRE, Forest Service, other federal agencies, local agencies that determine where the resources need to be. So they're looking at statewide all the fires that are going on. Where do those resources need to be? They coordinate with South Ops also, which is the exact same thing in the southern part of the state. And then they determine where these strike teams and other resources are needed, and then they get dispatched to those. It filters through our operational area, our county dispatch system, and those get routed to the different agencies within the county to fill those spots.
All fires start small. So using the city as an example, if we had a fire that started small, we would send our initial responding units. And if it was something we couldn't mitigate in a short period of time, we need reinforcement, we'd reach out to the county. And then the county would in turn, as our operational coordinator, would reach out to beyond the county to get resources in. And so we hit those ripples in the pond, and that's how we end up getting resources. What's really important to mention though is that you can't deplete any geographic area, okay? Hypothetically, if there was a fire in San Luis Obispo, we couldn't send 7 fire engines from our department to San Luis Obispo because we'd totally deplete our city. So what they do is they basically just pick areas and they'll say, we're gonna grab 2 from here, we're gonna grab 3 from here, we're gonna grab 2 from here, and they put these crews together and then they respond to an incident. So if we were to respond today to a fire in San Luis, we might send only 1 engine from our department, but then Santa Maria would send an engine, the county would send an engine, hypothetically Guadalupe could send an engine, Lompoc would send an engine, and we put the teams together and we deploy them to an area.
Resources that are sent to respond to mutual aid calls include vehicles, gear, and personnel. These resources make it possible to handle any emergency throughout the state.
We have 2 what are called Type 3 brush engines, and we have what's called a Type 6 brush engine. The Type 3s are your large 4-wheel drive, off-road capable apparatus that are specifically designed just for wildland incidents. And then we also have a Type 6, which is built on a pickup truck platform with a pump and is capable of really going off-road.
We have engines, and we also have some overhead, what we call overhead resources, which are people that, for instance, work in the ICP, the Incident Command Post, to put together the plan and to do things like support firefighters logistically and that type of thing.
Our firefighters receive extensive and continual training to receive various certifications.
Our firefighters are what we call all risk. And certain people are certified to work in certain positions. We are all certified to handle structural firefighting and wildland firefighting, and that has very different objectives. It's a very different set of rules. It's a very different concept to handle a house fire at 2 o'clock in the morning versus a brush fire at 2 o'clock in the morning. We have equipment for urban search and rescue. We have equipment for water rescue. We have equipment for ocean rescue if our folks are certified in it. So our folks literally carry around 4 sets of gear to some of their incidents.
The best training and the best preparation is going on these incidents. And we've been very involved in the mutual aid process for years and years. And so our folks are very used to what needs to be done when the bell rings and we get a fire. And it could be in Vandenberg Air Force Base, or it could be in the far north of the state.
Firefighters face challenges with every call, and when they're on a mutual aid call, those challenges increase.
When you first go to a fire, generally you're pretty fresh, you have that adrenaline kicking in, and you haven't been physically stressed or worked yet. It's just more mental at first. But yes, over a few days, that physical fatigue does set in, and it also does add to your mental fatigue. But the biggest thing is the fire doesn't care. It doesn't care if it's day 14 or day 1 for you. You have to have that clarity. You have to have that physical ability every time. So, but we also are aware of that as well. So when we're working with the crews, we're constantly monitoring, how we're doing, how the crew's doing, and what our abilities are that day as well.
One of the things that's really challenging to us is that we are intimately familiar with the city of Santa Barbara. I've been in a majority of the buildings. I've hiked the majority of the canyons. I know Rattlesnake Canyon, okay? I know Cold Springs, I know San Ysidro, I know all of the canyons, I know the Camino Cielo. I know where a fire starts. I can kind of tell you where we think it's gonna go. Conversely, if you take August 29th, and August 29th, they put me in the middle of the Sequoias. I'd never been there. I'd never been to Ponderosa, California. I'd never been to Camp Nelson. I'd never been to Camp Whitsett, which was the Boy Scout camp where we stayed for a week. I'd never been there. So that's a challenge. So not only is it a challenge navigating around, but you don't know what the weather's gonna do. You've got to learn the topography, you've got to learn the weather, you've got to learn where this fire is gonna go, what's gonna happen. You've got to come up with your primary objectives, your alternate plans, your contingency plans, and your emergency plans. What if things go really wrong? How am I going to get these people out of here? But luckily, we have a tremendous amount of resources available to us, from maps to local resources. We try to grab somebody that's local as quickly as possible and say, we're going to need some help here. And people are really, really good helpers.
There are financial responsibilities too. Reimbursements to the city are paid by each incident. It includes personnel, apparatus, and administrative costs.
The city of Santa Barbara pays its firefighters when they go out of town, or whether they're here in the city. When we go out of town, we're reimbursed by the incident. And that happens through the Office of Emergency Services for the state of California. They represent all the local fire departments, such as Santa Barbara City Fire Department, Montecito Fire Department, or Santa Barbara County Fire Department that responds on these incidents. It's filtered through OES. We submit for reimbursement. We give them our folks time on all these incidents, which they're required to record at the incident also, so there's confirmation. And the apparatus that we use and the administrative costs that it takes to do all that. And the incident reimburses us for that amount. Then goes back into the city's general fund, since the general fund has already paid for our firefighters' time, etc.
The best thing residents of Santa Barbara can do is to have a plan and be prepared.
The biggest message if I could send home with the public is that our fires are changing. They're becoming more frequent, they're larger. Really want you to be as prepared as possible and get out as soon as possible. Those two things are going to help us the most, and they're going to give you the best chance of survival.
Fire season is year-round. Don't let your guard down in December, for instance, because it can happen in December also. You need to be prepared to evacuate. You need to have a plan and be prepared to leave and leave early when you get the call.
My goal is to get myself and my crew home safe. So they come back to Santa Barbara, they can continue working, they can go home to their families. Safety is absolutely paramount with every single thing we do on the job.
The mutual aid system has been in California for decades and has proven to be a valuable tool in protecting life and property time and time again. For more information on the fire department, head to the city's website.